it's Dr. Jenny from the block, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel, and if you're returning, welcome back. So today's gem is inspired by Megan Thee Stallion's new single, Cobra. I really heard this song and connected to it. It resonated. I feel like it is this very open, vulnerable expression of the intersections of Black womanhood and mental health. And although she's not the first, last, and only Black woman to speak about it, I really, connected to this song for personal reasons, for her speaking truth to power, and being this very visible person who is really trying to normalize and get the conversation going, or continuing the conversation about the mental health experiences of Black women. So how I want to do this today is read some lyrics. So this is going to be the first time I'm reading from my computer. I never do that. I usually just kind of go off the dome, but I'm going to be reading the lyrics and really trying to expand a little bit on how some of these things relate to the knowledge that's out there, the collective wisdom around our mental health well-being. Yes, particularly when it pertains to depression and anxiety. So let's get it going. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole verse, but I want to highlight some pieces from it. I think the first part that really resonates for me is when she's sharing, breaking down, and I had the whole world watching, but the worst part is really who watched me. Every night I cried, I almost died, and nobody close tried to stop it. So one, I want to talk about, how Black women's pain is shared in the media. I'm not judging. I know a lot of people watch the reality TV shows like the Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives and all that. I'm not telling you to not watch it, but I think the interesting discourse around it is how it portrays Black women relationships, and especially how it profits from Black women being in pain emotionally, physically, etc. And I think this is something that happens a lot. Like, somebody's trauma becomes our news, our fanfare. And I think this line, that first line, is really highlighting that. I think it really speaks to the lack of empathy that many of us can show towards people that maybe we don't know or not connected to when they're experiencing trauma or other difficulties. But I think it's really important that we understand that empathy is a human connector. And when we are watching people in pain and we're using that for our own entertainment, we need to address that within ourselves, because that's not healthy. That's not how we foster healthy relationships. And I always say, if this was happening to you and people talked about you how you talked about others, how would you feel? And so I could understand that it can be very psychologically harmful to know that you're in pain and people are judging your experience, your pain, etc. And I think this just happens so much with Black women. She talks about, every night I cried, almost died, and nobody close tried to stop it. I won't get into the ins and outs of, that specific incident that she's probably referring to. But I think about this myth and notion of Black women needing to be superwoman, needing to bear all the burdens, take on the whole world by ourselves and not rely on help. I feel like in that line, she's asking, like, where is my help? And I think there is so much power in our village, so much power and vulnerability. And I think it will be an essential survival skill for Black women if we want to move past surviving to thriving. Like, we are going to have to cultivate community care, and be able to support people. I also know that we're not always taught how to ask for help, because so many of us, bear the burden and brunt of so many things, whether we're the main earner in our homes, if we are the ones that got to help with siblings or be caregivers in other capacities. There's a lot of pressure on us, but I think there's so much power in asking for help, and for those of us who are being asked to give help. So then the next line from this verse was, at night I'm sitting in a dark room thinking, probably why I always end up drinking. Yes, I'm very depressed. How can somebody so blessed want to slit their wrist? So this line, or lines together, I think highlight a couple things. I think first, numbing. I can resonate with this very deeply, because I've noticed in particularly emotionally tumultuous periods of my life, I have also resorted to alcohol because it makes you think you feel good. It numbs you. It takes you out of the present moment. But there are also a lot of negative consequences that can come from numbing, whether it's alcohol or whatever else your thing of choice is. it can be so detrimental to us because you can act out in those moments. You can actually create more disconnection from yourself and from others when you're numbing. And so I think it was very brave of her to name, like, you know, yeah, I do drink, and I drink as a result of wanting to quiet my thoughts. That's real. And I'm not here to shame anybody about that. I think it's really important to understand that when trauma, when stress, when things happen to us, how do we respond to that? I think that's a really important step in us being able to heal and to take care of ourselves. How can somebody so blessed want to slit their wrist? You know, I think when I've talked with people, worked with people, etc., people will say, well, you have it all, you should be happy. And I think this goes to the point that is, you could have the world and still be struggling. At the end of the day, the gold, the jewelry, the money, all those things are nice. And of course we want, you know, many of us aspire to have those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, those things do not dictate your mental well-being. Those things will not stop trauma from happening to you. That will not stop feelings of inadequacy. That will not stop feelings of harm. And so if you rely on material things outside of yourself to take care of you, when real life happens, because life is always lifing, is going to hit different. And so I really appreciate her candor with, you know, acknowledging, yes, you can be blessed, you can have all these things, and you can have mental health issues as well. Both can exist, they can coexist. I think we need to stop minimizing each other's pain by saying, well, you have this, and this, so you shouldn't feel bad. That's just not how it works, sweetie. So I think it's really important to learn how to do the both and. How can we balance these things so that we are not judging others and instead making space for other people to be vulnerable, authentic, and human. And I think the last bit of that, right after, you know, she say, I probably bleed out, you know, still, you know, relating to the piece of the over drinking, the numbing. She's acknowledging her suicidal thoughts. When they find me, I'm in Valentino. He's pouring me shots thinking it's lit. Laha, little does he know. I think sometimes we can be aiding people in their numbing by choosing to not see it as such. And I've also been guilty of that. I have, you know, navigated really hard stuff with people that are very close to me. And I thought that maybe by, you know, joining them with drinking, etc., that like this would be helpful because we're doing it together. But I've had to learn in really painful ways and hard ways that that's not helpful. I think it's further creating an environment where the numbing is okay, and although you may be there, they're not. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so verse 2, you know, she's sharing, never thought a bee like me would ever hit rock bottom. Man, I miss my parents, way too anxious, always cancel my plans. I think it's really important to note that anxiety and depression can actually run concurrently together. That is often associated, they're often associated with each other. And I think there's this acknowledgement of like isolation. When we're experiencing mental health distress, I think it is, for many reasons, we sink within ourselves. I think sometimes it's because it's just hard to get the energy to connect with others. It takes a lot of work. I think sometimes we're thinking about all the things that could go wrong. And I sometimes think that we isolate ourselves in order to protect other people. And so if you are noticing that coming up for you, that's important information, because isolation is often a symptom of anxiety and or depression. So the last line in that verse that I want to highlight is when Megan says, damn, I finally see it. I'm killing myself when bees would die to be me. I want to highlight that when Black women are experiencing depression and anxiety, it can show up for us in terms of self-deprecation, self-critique, not having high self-esteem or feeling valued, experiencing like that self-value. And that's really important to highlight, because when we are not feeling grounded within who we are, what we're capable of, who we can be, that can keep us in this spiral of depression. I've worked with so many people over the years, and that self-evaluation piece always comes up when we're navigating this work around depression. And so if you are recognizing that you are not feeling good enough in your body, in yourself, and who you are, that's a starting place for you to do this self-reflective work, and then, you know, do whatever next steps are necessary so that you can break through that. because that can be a trap, a pitfall that Black women can get stuck in for a very, very long time. So the last verse, well, the outro, you know, Megan says, I ain't going, yeah, no emotion. Back outside, yeah, back in motion. Back to numbing, right? So I think sometimes our pain can be suppressed and we can try to find all these things to distract ourselves, and the distractions only last for so long. When I'm working with folks, or when I've worked with folks who are navigating depression and anxiety, we have to start to think about our values, engaging in that values-based living. And I actually made a video about values about a month or so ago, and I'll link it here. But I think it's really important that, okay, maybe you need to distract yourself for a short while, but at some point it's not going to hold any merit anymore. And those same feelings that creep in are going to be right back with us. So I think it's really important to recognize when we're numbing, when we're disassociating, when we're trying to just suppress, because we need to be in reality. We need to work in what's happening now. And that is the only way, you know, to deal with depression and anxiety, is to go through it. There's no avoiding it. So I just wanted to highlight the outro. Now, to be honest, this video is barely scratching the surface because there are so many other factors that can impact the lived experience and well-being of Black women. We have to think about, you know, issues in terms of how we are perceived in society and expected to act. We have to think about body politics and the shame and the stigma around our own bodies. We have to think about, you know, our households, that there are, you know, many single parents out there navigating things. The cost of living is going up. There's the financial stressors. There's the systemic societal stressors, everything from policing in our communities to Black death to, you know, unjust rates of incarceration for Black folks and Black women. Misogynoir, which is that prejudice against cis and transgender Black women that can often result in our murders or other serious harm. There are so many things that I could touch on. This video would be forever long, but I'm trying to work with y'all attention spans, because I know in this society today, we can't always focus for like 5, 6, 7, 8+ minutes. So this is just the beginning of the conversation about Black women's mental health and well-being. I know that I probably didn't address a lot of things, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment sections about what you'd want to hear about next. This is a big topic, and I don't want to try to address all of it in one video, because that's just not fair to Black women, and we deserve better. So I'll end here, but per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. As always, thank y'all for engaging and indulging me. I hope this gem resonated with somebody. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you know when I'm dropping these gems. Also, follow me on Instagram at Dr. Jenny from the block. And until the next video, take care. All right, bye.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness.